covering climate, weather, and the industrial enterprise from Penn State Meteorology. Here is Up in the Air.
Welcome back to another week's episode of Up in the Air. I'm Logan Westrup, and alongside is Chris Landolfi. So this weekend we had Easter, and I was able to spend time with some friends. We went to brunch this weekend, so it was pretty nice. How was your Easter?
It was a great weekend. Brunch is always great for Easter. I got to spend it with some family. I got to head on home, see the family one last time before I graduate from the university, which is a scary thought, an increasingly scary thought, but that's okay. But I did have to come back late Sunday night because we had a little bit of snow for our...
So the drive back was good.
The drive back was good. I beat the snow, which is the good news, but really don't want to be worrying about snow in April anyway.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, so. But we do have a full show tonight here on Up in the Air. We have stories on cherry blossoms, seasonal allergies, as well as oil spills.
And all that and more, but first here's Update in the Air.
As winters become milder and spring thaws arrive earlier, many plants and trees are blooming earlier than they did over the past century. As fall also continues to arrive later, the length of the growing season has increased by nearly 2 weeks in the contiguous United States since 1900. This has affected entire ecosystems by disrupting plant-pollinator relationships, increasing pest outbreaks, and worsening human allergies. This also affects tourism in many cities, which depend on colorful blooms to attract visitors, such as Washington, D.C., which hosts the National Cherry Blossom Festival every year. 1.5 million visitors visit D.C. to see the over 3,000 cherry trees. These trees were gifted to the city by Japan in 1912. As their peak bloom date is occurring earlier due to a changing climate, this could continue to affect tourism and the local economy.
Those of you who are coffee lovers will be happy to hear that experts are not finding any firm evidence for any cancer risks, but this does not mean that you're completely free from worry. According to a study, California will be placing cancer warnings on their coffee since it contains a carcinogen. It has finally been decided after an 8-year battle, but this leaves many wondering if there are any health risks to coffee. When coffee beans are roasted, a byproduct compound produced called acrylamide, which is found in a variety of things in our food chain. Chief Medical Officer for the American Cancer Society, Len Lichtenfeld, says most experts are going to look at the risk of acrylamide in coffee and conclude that this is something that is going to have a meaningful impact on human health. While cancer may not have a high risk from coffee, other problems such as cardiac and nervous system functions are more common if not consumed in a reasonable quantity.
The Turkish government has proposed the construction of a canal that would be the largest infrastructure project the country has ever undertaken. The Canal Istanbul will be a massive shipping lane, 30 miles long and 80 feet deep, to route shipping traffic from the Bosporus Strait, which is one of the most crowded waterways in the entire world. Many environmental experts are concerned that this project could turn into an ecological disaster. Around 40% of Istanbul's water comes from sources that will be severely impacted by the building of this canal. This will affect the water supply of a city that, in recent years, has already seen its reservoirs dip to around 30%. Scientists also worry of the effects of linking the Black Sea with the Marmara Sea. This will disrupt the flow of the Bosporus Strait, which could disrupt the city's waste disposal. There also is a possibility that the change in salinity of the water could cause the city to smell like hydrogen sulfide. While Turkey looks to break ground on the project any day now, scientists stress that more time needs to be given to environmental impact tests to ensure that the canal does not cause problems for the ecosystem of the region.
Recycling is one of the best ways to help reduce, reuse, and recycle materials that we use every day. But what if one day we could use that same technique on carbon dioxide? Material scientist and graduate student Phil DeLuna at University of Toronto in Canada are studying ways that we could one day recycle CO2. Considering carbon dioxide emissions are a huge threat to the planet's environment with climate change, this idea would be very beneficial in the long run. The idea came from artificial photosynthesis, since we take food, light, water, and create energy from it, so tests are being done on CO2. The technology would work like a reverse fuel cell and would be ready in the next 5 to 10 years. So we would inevitably be able to finally turn a bad situation into something more useful in the coming future with climate change.
In the beginning of March, an oil well in Colombia burst, leaking oil into the Magdalena River, a 950-mile-long river that flows through the country. As an investigation was launched, it was discovered that the spill killed more than 2,400 animals, including cattle, fish, birds, and reptiles. In addition, it is causing locals to lose a source of fresh water, as well as a source of food. The number of barrels spilled is unclear, as Ecopetrol, the state-owned oil company, says there were 550 barrels spilled. Some local media outlets, however, are reporting as many as 24,000 barrels may have leaked into the river. What is clear is that crude oil continues to flow through the rivers of Colombia, now contaminating both the Lizama River and the Sogamoso River. This is not the only environmental issue plaguing the country, as just last week, a report revealed that the Cauca River is also unsafe for humans, this time due to the presence of carcinogenic heavy metals. While many are concerned that this may continue to happen, locals hope that the spill will shed light on the environmental issues affecting Colombia.
It seems like when most people get sick, they often blame the constant mood swings Mother Nature has to offer, from hot to cold to rainy and then sunny. Well, it turns out that not only do the spring and fall seasons bring allergies, but swings in air pressure, temperature, and wind can irritate your body's immune system. Researchers also state that colder temperatures promote more colds. Time magazine reports a recent study from Yale University found a 7-degree drop in ambient temperature can mess with your body's ability to stop viruses from proliferating. Protecting your face and nose from the cold will help your immune defenses. Wearing a scarf or staying indoors with fresh air ventilation is best during these seasons. The study states that it is best to avoid spring breakers too, since they are traveling and can pick up an illness, bringing it back home and getting others sick as well.
Wetlands are one of the most powerful and productive ecosystems that help protect life here on Earth. There are wetlands all around the world, and each have a multitude of functions that are unique to different areas. Wetlands provide the source of life to the species that inhabit them and are a vital component to watersheds, which many living things are all connected to. As climate science continues to grow, scientists have also found that wetlands contribute to a healthy atmosphere, for they store carbon in their soil and release it into the atmosphere as carbon dioxide. Denise Wardrobe, Associate Director of Riparia for Penn State, who studies wetland plant communities, explains the balance that is needed for the carbon cycle.
So people say, okay, let's measure how much carbon you're storing per year versus how much methane per year you're fluxing out, right? And if you're storing 25 times more carbon than you are emitting carbon as methane, then you're storing carbon. And in our view, you're a carbon storage feature and you can get protection for climate change, right? But that's why we do carbon cores to get the rate of carbon accumulation, and we're measuring methane. So we have both parts of that ratio.
Our very own state has more than 400,000 acres of wetlands. However, Pennsylvania originally had about 1,127,000 acres. The goal under the Interstate Chesapeake Bay Agreement is to have no net loss of wetlands and instead have a net gain because of how vital they are to many ecosystems. I'm Bri Guy for Up in the Air.
Welcome back to the show. Well, Chris, we had a nice little late season April snowstorm here earlier this week. We got about 4.5 inches of snow here in State College. Would you get out and enjoy the snow before it all melted?
When it comes to April, I am done with the snow, so I did not enjoy it at all. 4.5 inches is a little much. That was actually our highest snow from one event this cold season, which
Definitely
don't typically see that in April, but hopefully the snow is just about over for this season. Mike Susko is at the Climate Wall. Mike, please tell me that winter is finally coming to an end.
Well, Chris, I can tell you, at least in the next couple of weeks, we're not going to see anything in terms of snow. And we are starting to see temperatures rise up into the 50s. 55 for this time of year here. On April 5th, our average low is 36 degrees. Unfortunately, though, we're not going to be seeing temperatures near 81 like we did back in 1910. On the other side, we're not going to be seeing anything near 17 like we did 120 years ago in 1898. Looking at the temperature outlook across the nation, you can see that we're going to have above normal temperatures in the southwestern corner of the country, especially near Phoenix and Arizona and New Mexico. But the above normal temperatures will be expanding all the way up near Denver, Colorado, and into Wyoming. But they're also going to be expanding westward all the way to the California coast, just to the south of San Francisco. On the other side of that coin, the below normal temperatures for the period April 10th to April 16th will be hanging out in the northern plains, particularly North Dakota and Minnesota, especially around Minneapolis. They're going to be well into that darker shade of blue here. And those temperatures will also be below normal down here in the Cascades of the Northwest. So unfortunately for them, they're going to be below normal for that period. Here in the Northeast, though, especially as we head to New York and into New England, we're going to be seeing temperatures a little bit below average, not too bad. Also here in the northeastern corner of the Pennsylvania. For State College specifically, we're going to be just to the south and to the west of that line. So we're going to be expecting temperatures at this time of year to be just around average here in center Pennsylvania. Looking at the precipitation outlook again for April 10th to April 16th, you can see below normal precip, especially unfortunately for Texas and Oklahoma, where they'll be seeing lots of drought, and now it's extending all the way into Arizona, into Utah. And we're going to be seeing above normal precip in the Northwest, especially along the coast of Washington and Oregon, around Portland. They'll be seeing above normal precip, and here in Montana, stretching into North Dakota. That will be wrapping around on the northern part of the country, down the eastern coast. You can see here above normal precip amounts, again for this period, all from Pennsylvania, Ohio, Tennessee, Kentucky, all the way down to Atlanta and near Savannah, Georgia. Florida will be a little bit above average for this time period, but here in Northeast, we're definitely going to be in that darker shade of green. All of Pennsylvania in that darker shade, so we're expecting the precip to be a little bit above average. As far as the drought monitor goes, you can see, again, the darker red and the red showing up, unfortunately, in the panhandle of Oklahoma and Texas, like we have been seeing the last couple of weeks. And now it's beginning to stretch into New Mexico, down to Phoenix, Arizona, and even into a little bit here into Southern California. So the drought is expanding in the southwestern part of the state. We are seeing a little bit of drought, again, down here in the southeastern part of the country in Georgia, or near Savannah, particularly where you're starting to see that orange color. We are seeing it stretch up a little bit, though, in the Carolinas and up into Virginia, but back here in Pennsylvania into the Northeast, you can see we're drought-free pretty much. Only a very, very tiny bit of yellow showing up just below the Maryland-Pennsylvania border here in Pennsylvania. Looking at the snow depth across the nation, you can see pretty much all the way up the northern plains and Montana is where we're talking snow. And unfortunately, though, we're not seeing much in the terms of the Rockies or in the Cascades in terms of impressive snowpack, because unfortunately, they rely on the snow for their water supply in the upcoming summer, and we're just not seeing it. We are seeing, though, in Montana, especially around Billings, thanks to those couple of snowstorms that did make their way through the past week, we are seeing a little bit of snow stretching from Missouri into Indiana, all the way to Ohio and back here into Pennsylvania. You can see that we're having a little bit of blue showing up here across the state. As we expand into the northeast, you can see we're beginning to see the snow actually begin to break up here in New York, and especially as we get into Vermont and to New Hampshire as well, a sign that spring is on the way. As far as your weekend forecast goes, for Saturday and Relay for Life, sun and clouds with a high of 40. So we're going to be about 15 below average, unfortunately. But we will get the sunshine, and that's going to stick around for Sunday. Again, temperatures will be a little bit below average with 42 as our high. So Chris and Logan, the sun is here, but those warm and spring-like temperatures are not, unfortunately.
You know, I was really hoping to be able to put my jacket up last week, and it doesn't look like that will be the case this week, as we'll probably still need our jackets hanging on to us for the next few days at least.
Yeah, unfortunately, temperatures right now averaging in the mid-50s. I could use some mid-50s. I don't know about you. Yeah,
exactly.
So that's all the time we have for this week on this week's episode of Up in the Air. For Mike Susko and Vivian Rennie, I'm Chris Landolfi.
And I'm Logan Westbrook. Be sure to catch us next week on our last episode of Up in the Air.